Hello everyone. I'm getting ready to walk through right now our show at the Apalachicola School of Art and History on Water Street in Apalachicola, Florida. In our show, Art and Technology, The Divine Marriage, Leisha has already done her half, so I'm going to walk you through what I've put together for the show. I'm going to change cameras now. The first thing you'll see, and got a lot of reflections, is the unit piece that Leisha and I designed together. This is a fourth dimensional fractal which talks about the unit of the two of us together. This is what's called a soul blueprint, which is customized for each person, each couple, or each family that wants one. So walking around the corner, going to some of my earlier fractals. This is Escherist Aztec City. And I love this one for all of the intricate detail, including this crazy number 4 that shows up here in the top. Kind of amazing to see that. But again, because it's fractal, 3D fractals, you get a tremendous amount of detail. So this one reminded me of an Escher drawing and an Aztec City, kind of with all the jumbled up perspective and plane shifts. This is the Amphitheater construction site. This was kind of an interesting piece for me, exciting piece for me, because it was the first one where reflections were involved with the Mandelbulb software that I use. And what's really exciting about this is the amount of detail as you zoom in. Look at that. Oh, phone won't handle it, but that's the kind of detail that you get to see in these fractals. So lots of depth, color, the background coming through. And because these feel otherworldly to me, a lot of them I put in space telescope imagery. So this is Hubble Space Telescope imagery as a background. It's also reflected in the images. This next piece is a compilation of 6 different fractals created using Zenodream software by a super guy named Grant Thornton down in New Zealand. Love the software. A little bit different. It's more of a constructive type software, so it allows me to use shapes and create the images I want. This is a Julio regression here, so it takes space back to infinity. This is the Mandelbulb using a torus and a sphere and getting some tremendous detail and reflections. This image, the original image, took 11 days to render. Some of you may know this, but I used to do jewelry and metal work, so this piece I wanted to feel like fine silver and get a really nice, soft metal feel to it, and I think it really accomplished what I was looking for. This is a quaternion fractal, so it uses time as part of the equation, and I was just really intrigued by all the spirals and the way the twists and the spirals happen together. This is a different coloration of the one in the top right. I was really inspired by cloisonne eggs to create the blue egg shapes in there and get those amazing textures that feel like glass on metal. And then this piece is one that plays with the concept of infinity. This is a picture of the central image, this core with the 6 bulbs radiating out of it, and spheres surrounding it as well. So what you'll see is this little sphere right here is an exact replica of the entire structure, including itself. And each of the spheres surrounding it is another whole galaxy. So it goes on infinitely. Kind of blows the mind when you start thinking about it. And again, this is in a space telescope image. This is the Orion Nebula. This piece is called Space Coral. And it's very similar to the ones I was just showing you using the Zenodream again. And what I love about this is the organic shapes of it, and of course the reflections and the subtle colors in these little pearl shapes here. So exciting to be able to play with these kinds of reflections and depth of field. So walking around, one of my favorite vertical pieces, this is called the Grand Cathedral. This is a Mandelbulb 3D piece again, and the kind of perspective it has made me think of a huge cathedral. And what's crazy about this piece is if, let's say this is 150 or 200 feet tall, this is on the corner of a structure that's 10 or 15 miles across. So you can't really tell most of the time until you get up close, but there's just a huge amount of detail going on in the background of all of these pieces. This is printed 20 by 30 inches on metal, as all of the pieces I've shown you have been. Now the next two pieces are a little bit different. They have a little more going on because I've started using photographs and other information along with fractals to create blended imagery. So the original image in this, the palm trees and the cityscape, are in Antibes, France, where I was with Leisha last summer. And then you'll see a horizon line going across here. That's actually from Jacksonville Beach, and that gave me the sky. And then this is a three-dimensional fractal in the background, looming up like some sort of an old temple. So using a blended painting technique, I was trying to keep it looking painterly as well as bringing in the fractal. This piece, Ghost Trees with Seven Hills, is a blend of a painting that I did years ago and Seven Hills with Yin Yang, which is a really beautiful fractal. So again, got a lot of detail, and the background has been painted out using a stylus to give it more of a feel other than just cutting out the holes. I wanted it to feel more painted than just reduced. This piece is called Central Core, and I love it. The big section, this big section in the middle here reminds me of a giant incense burner used in cathedrals. They swing from place to place, but gigantic. Like this could be in space, and more of a spaceship docking station than anything else. Now, going around the corner, we're going to step back in time into some of my paintings. This is a piece called Prospective Collision. What's fun about this piece, and it takes a while to look at it, is that on all four corners of the painting, there's a vanishing point. And each vanishing point is set up in rays of color. So you'll see that this is a gray, and then a white in this ray, gray, white, gray, white, so it gives that stripe. This is an orange and a blue, orange and blue, so that you get that feeling there. From the other side, we have purple. Let's see, it's purple and yellow. I can't even remember all of the pieces. Red and green on one, but painting that translucent gave this really deep feeling, and then painting the white back in to separate it was fun, but difficult painting to do and create some really interesting space. I think this was the first, this is a print of the first oil painting I ever completed called Western Night. It was after visiting Tucson in 1993, I guess it was, or 1990 when Leisha and I went out and visited Tucson the first time. So really just a fun little piece, and one of Leisha's favorites, as she's showing you now. So this wall is part of, it's a triptych, but it's part of a 5-piece series. These are the last 3 unsold pieces. The one on the left is called Resistance. It's Ascension 1, Resistance, and has some really deep color going on. This was painted while we were in Bernalillo, New Mexico for a show at Gallery 5 there. And it was a bit of a challenge because as I was painting it in a campground, the wind would come up and I'd have to keep rocks on them at night to keep them from blowing away. This is the last. It's called Surrender. And then this is called Acceptance. So if you start with the one on the left, this is about the process of change, emotional change. We start with resistance. We don't even know that we have something we need to change most of the time. When we get to acceptance, it throws us off balance. The world feels out of kilter. But by the time we've accepted the change, and we move to acceptance, that's that feeling of floating where we break free from the constrictions that we've had in our life. So I'm going to skim over this one because Leisha and I just did a short video, but this is Cloverleaf Cathedral. If you want to know more about this one, go see the Facebook Live we did just a few minutes ago. This is one of my signature pieces, mostly for the color and the structure, and really it's like LA on steroids. This is fun because this is the only piece I think I have in the show that's a digital piece that has no fractals in it. This is a compilation of 3 different photographs. The photograph of this desert dove here was at the Boyce Thompson Arboretum in Phoenix. The cathedral is a friary up on a hill in Nice overlooking the ocean, gorgeous. And then the floor with the rose window light on it came from another cathedral. And then just to give it that extra little kick, I put space imagery back in the tiles, just to make the sky even feel like a sky. But that was fun, and this is one of the pieces that was created totally digitally. This is one of my favorite pieces of all time just because it has something to it that I don't know how to explain. But this is another quaternion fractal, and it's called I Caught the Wind. This particular piece, I actually have gone in and done a lot of hand painting inside of it to increase the depth, just to give it more definition in places where I wanted it. But you can see how it's like the turbulence of the wind swirling and swirling and swirling. This piece is called Julio's Brass Bar, and it's just a kind of a laugh at those brass bars that used to be everywhere in Atlanta in the 80s and 90s. It was more of an exploration of photographic depth of field. So along with all of the detail, I've also pushed it to make it look like it has a true focal point, so it makes it feel more like something that exists in reality. Again, one of the fun parts of all of these is the depth of detail, including the reflections that show you everything going on around. Just lots and lots of detail. Again, colors are fun, and it was the structure and depth of field that were of most interest to me in this piece. Going around the corner is Web of Life, and this is based off of a yin-yang symbol, a 3-dimensional yin-yang, and the kind of program I used with it, the kind of formula I used, created this almost fabric out of this metallic feel. But again, it's all about the detail for this, so I'm going to zoom in on this little button here so you can see that that little tiny part right there holds all the reflective information of where you're standing if you were actually looking at this in reality, which is impossible since it's an unreal space. And then you can see this sort of fabric feel from the reduction of all the metal tubes. This is a really fun piece that Leisha and I had fun doing together. This called from Leisha. It's just pretty descriptive. I actually projected a fractal onto Leisha and then photographed her, and it really turned out amazingly well. I close cropped it to make it kind of difficult to understand, but you can see her ear here, her hand, her hair, shoulder, arm coming up to the hand, and doing that with a deep black background just made it a lot of fun to look at. This piece is called Floating Flowers. This was painted in New Mexico. I was doing a landscape that I wasn't really excited about, and these floating flowers have sort of become a theme that I've worked with in paint before. So this was very quick and direct and just has a nice feel to it. So this is called System 1 Thick. Now what's interesting about it is that I think it's really the precursor to me going into fractals, because I've always painted interactions of systems, and part of my ethic is having the background have as much energy in it as the foreground. So a lot of cases you'll see the brush strokes in the background are much more intense than in the foreground. foreground, and a lot of times the background will overlap the foreground, talking about the way things exist in nature. So that kind of exploration of space and system and structure leads right into fractals. This piece is called Red Lines, and it was kind of tongue-in-cheek. At the time I painted this, our son Des was really into motors, so I was thinking about red line rev limiters, but also just really pushing the color intensity of that very deep green and this incredible alizarin crimson. Now to get that sheen you can see, and it's easier to see in person, but if you look at that crimson color there, you'll see it has a shimmer to it. That shimmer is actually copper filings underneath the alizarin crimson. So it really catches the light in a different way and gives it a warmth that you don't get any other way. This was painted on Padre Island National Seashore while we were living in our motorhome. And this is another one that the wind tried to get all the time. I used a paper plate with rocks on it as a palette, and this has a good amount of sand in it as well, just because the wind was always blowing 15 to 30 miles an hour. So we'll move on to Arizona Tree. I think this was one of my first fractal and photograph, I guess I call it a mashup. But this is a picture from the Boyce Thompson Arboretum, and this tree is really unusual South African tree. It looks like this. That's not the painting, that's reality. And then you'll see in the foreground, or in the background, we've got a little bit of earth and rocks and this aloe. Then behind that is a fractal that I called Spore Planet. And I just like the color combination with the tree. It picks up some of the same colors, but it has this otherworldly feel to it. Again, a lot more fun in person when you can really see all the detail. So come see us. Come see the show. Next, this is called Mashup Compilation. Now this is interesting, and probably should get Samsung to sponsor me for this, but these pieces were all created on a Galaxy Note 5 from photographs and or fractals. So I'll walk you through these, starting from the right. This is a cactus flower that I took a photo of. And then in the background is Central Core, which is the fractal that I showed you earlier. And again, using the stylus on the Note 5 and translucency in a couple of programs, I was able to paint in the transparency that I wanted to have the fractal show through, but in a painterly way. This one on the left was from the Boyce Thompson Arboretum as well. And I can't remember the name of the plant. It's a bean plant that grows in the Southwest. And it has these beautiful flowers. And look at the detail of the pollen there. Again, this picture was taken with a Note 5. The picture in the background was as well. And then I painted in the transparency, leaving brush marks so that it feels more painterly. Again, that's a big concern on this. And then the central piece is 2 photographs and a fractal. The main photograph is the bridge, it's the pier at Jacksonville Beach. In the background is a chrysanthemum that we had up in our kitchen. I just really like that orange, so I put that as sort of a sunrise. And then there's a fractal underneath the water and on the sand. So where it disappears into the water, there's a lower level of transparency. So you still see the fractal, but it disappears. Lots of fun on that one. But that's a nice triptych because it captures some really interesting images, and flowers are a part of all of them. So this next piece is a collaborative piece between Leisha and me. And what's cool about this one is we've incorporated 3 different elements. One in the foreground is a picture of a statue that she took in France. The picture she took in France of a statue there. The fractal I called the cave of the Queen prior to the Queen being placed in the cave. And then to give it a feel that just kind of set it off even more, we put in space telescope imagery in the background. So it lends itself to feel either like space or like water. So it has almost a feeling of being underwater as well. And this last piece is a a digital collage of 3 different elements. This is a picture of Isis that Leisha placed into an original fractal of mine called Altar, and then I painted away sections of the altar after she was finished putting in Isis and put this purple fractal behind to give it a sense of more depth. This is called the Hall of Crossed Spheres and has a lot of detail as well. So again, playing with light, color, depth, structure, and now iconography to really mix up what we're talking about and bring some of the ancient and what's in the real world along with the imagined worlds that I play with. So I hope you've enjoyed everything. If you get time to the show, go to juicysacredliving.com. We have a page called Current-Project that has all of the artwork in it. And we're going to have a blast tonight. The show opens at 5. Have a wonderful day.